Hello, it's only me, and I don't know if I'm going to get much of an audience here, but if I don't, then I ask that you share this poem. I was going to do this live last night when I was out, but the place that I was in, I couldn't get a signal, and it was a bit noisy anyway. So I'm going to do it now live. I don't feel as though I've got right. So like I always work on instinct, mate, right? And I don't feel as though I've got the time to sort of like learn this poem and rehearse it and then get it out online. You know, like film it and put it online. I feel as though it's got to be out now, and I get that feeling because last week I did this interview with a friend of mine, a comedian called Christian Steele, and Christian actually lost his mum to COVID-19. It took her in 4 days, right? So, and she didn't like die with it or have it and then recover and then get knocked over by a bus or a car and then get registered with COVID-19. She actually died from it, and we did this interview with Christian last week, and he was saying to me himself that he thinks that the government's new measures don't make sense to him, right? As somebody who's lost his mum to COVID-19, he said they don't make sense because at the end of the day, we've got to start like looking for other ways in order to overcome this situation, because locking down the country, taking away people's livelihoods, you know, is insane, because COVID-19 is going to be around forever. He also thought COVID-19 was man-made and weaponized, and you know, I've seen people online get called conspiracy theorists for saying this kind of thing, right? But he is Christian, who, like I say, his mum was killed by COVID-19, and he's come out and said these things, which I think is a massive thing. And so all fair play to Christian for actually having that courage and going against the official narrative to say what he said last week in our interview, which is on my Facebook page. But we recorded it and we're going to put it out on my YouTube page as well. So I wrote this poem yesterday, and it goes out to Boris Johnson, right? And I'd like to dedicate it to Christian and his mum, who lost her life in April, and I'm going to read it now, and I'll ask you, listen, I mean, normally I rehearse these things, but this is my poem to Boris Johnson, and I hope it resonates with you, and I hope you share it. I hope you share it far and wide. And this is for Christian Steele and his mum. Little mum, he used to call her. And it goes like this. It's called Dear Mr. Johnson. Dear Mr. Johnson, can you tell me what you're doing? You're putting everybody into debt, hardship and financial ruin. You're taking away my motivation, my hope and self-respect. I didn't vote to be placed in this situation when it was you I decided to elect. Because of your knee-jerk COVID policy, you brought this country to its knees. People living their lives on the edge of knives. So stop this madness, please. I supported you when we first went into lockdown. I defended you and had your back. I told the Liberal left to back right off when you were the focus of their attack. But all the things you wanted to do are done. All your targets are now achieved. All the measures you put in place have worked and stopped more families being bereaved. So what's the legitimate reason now for carrying on taking away our civil rights and enforcing rules that make no sense, like closing the country down at 10 o'clock at night? The death toll is now so low that the introduction of further measures simply do not justify the removal of life's pleasures. You're taking away our ability to live. You're making our youth give up their lives ahead. You're restricting the majority's want to give to life for the sake of a minority who are dead. Yes, I respect those who've fallen, and in a perfect world I wouldn't want to see any loss of life. But this world is far from perfect, and death comes to us all like grief or strife. You've been dictated to by the press. I can see that now, and from the very start. You and our gutless politicians didn't want to get attacked by them, so you appeased the press and played your part. But playing your part is leading so many people into their darkest night, and these lockdown laws are breeding a population that's going down without a fight. Alcoholism and drug abuse are going through the ceiling. Domestic violence is all around, but not getting looked at because our police are too busy kneeling and arresting people for posting on social media and speaking out their truth. And all this madness is taking away our children's innocence. It's stealing from them their youth. Lethargy is there in abundance, so is suicide. All this misery and aggression, it's so difficult for some to hide. With your measures, you're taking away our hearts, you're taking away our souls, you're taking away our hopes and ambitions, our aims and all our goals. People are struggling to make ends meet, they're feeling down and so depressed. They're carrying anxiety around like Aldi shopping bags. They're feeling confused, lost and depressed. I want to ask questions without being trolled online. I want to get the answer. I want to be filled with honest truth, not eaten away with lies and cancer. We need you to remove this darkness and replace it with our light. We cannot find a path to a loving life because we cannot escape this night. We want the threat of forced, unsafe vaccinations removing. We want our lives to be warm and clean. We don't want to live the new normal nightmare through being force-fed fear with this 19. So come on, Mr. Johnson, stand up proud and tall. Justify the vote you got from Labour's Fortress North and its red wall. And before I go any further, and the Liberal left say I've got for what I voted, Keir Starmer and Labour have backed the government over COVID, so let that point be noted. Labour wouldn't have done anything any differently. They too would have locked us down. They too would have capitulated to the media's Project Fear and watched people swimming in a sea of hopelessness to drown. Let it be said that people have had enough. They're feeling more desperate and angry now than afraid. So Bojo, give us back our mojo. Yours sincerely, Chris McGlade. That's my new poem. And I hope you share it far and wide if you liked it. It's what I wanted to say. I think it's what a lot of other people want to say. Even people like Christian Steele, whose mum died of COVID-19. Even he wants to say these things. And he said them in our live interview last week. When lockdown first happened, I defended Boris Johnson. Because even though I'm a socialist, at the end of the day, he's my Prime Minister. And he was under pressure because no Prime Minister has been under this situation before in our lifetime. And to put a man who's under pressure under more pressure is ridiculous because it would just lead to more mistakes. But I did say that when the measures that he'd introduced had worked and the targets had been achieved, then I would ask questions. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm asking questions because the things that are happening now, like the talk of forced vaccinations and military on the streets, wearing masks when we didn't have to wear masks before, having to have track and trace to take your children to football practice, nah, not having it. So I'm asking the questions now, as I said I would do when the worst of this was over. And a whole lot more people, as I say, including people who have actually lost close family members. Christian Steele's mum lost him to COVID. They're asking questions. We're all asking questions. And I from the very first live video I did during this pandemic, I encouraged people to ask questions. And I continue to ask the question, and I encourage you to ask the questions too. And don't be put off by doing that, or from doing that. I hope you enjoyed the poem. I hope you shared it far and wide. I will endeavour to learn it. I will endeavour to learn it and get it filmed properly. And that goes out to Christian Steele and his mum, who died from COVID-19 in April. And I spoke to Christian last night and told him I was going to dedicate the poem to him and his mum, and he was over the moon. That's how strongly he feels about this. Love you, Chris. God bless you all, and keep asking questions. Thank you.